Hi, everyone. Okay, some crazy ideas. Here we go. You ready? Mistakes and challenges may actually be the universe's or the divine's way of correcting and nudging us in the right direction. They could be invitations for real growth, helping us to find the path that best suits us and encouraging us to listen more closely to those whispers within. Whoa, I know that's a big statement, but I have some proof, or at least some evidence pointing us in the right direction. One example out of so many. When I was in high school, I was really hardworking. I studied well into the night and spent plenty of hours each week practicing sports and babysitting my little brothers, and I did everything I could to get decent grades and do well, and I was always proud of doing my best. Then came the SATs, that pesky test many colleges use as other markers of intelligence and success outside of grades. And boy, did I fail. ah, if my average grade was around an A minus, I somehow ended up with like the equivalent of a D minus or an F on that exam. It was shocking, humiliating, and extremely painful. I was a really good student, so why did this happen to me? Well, I didn't know proper test taking methods, and although I knew that there were classes that taught test taking strategies, I really doubted that one could improve my score enough to actually matter. That's how bad it was. Years later, this is kind of a side note, I discovered how wrong I was. And while preparing for a graduate entrance exam, I took a course that really helped me go from failing practice tests to scoring very high. And that was because the timing and my readiness aligned. So it can happen in the right timing. But at the time that I took the SATs, I simply felt defeated and sad. My plan had really been derailed, but I still believed that I would find another way to get into a good college. It was never a question of if for me, but how. So I let go of the idea of going straight to a 4 year university and I decided to attend community college, which is really a fabulous option for so many reasons. If you have questions about that, let me know. I taught for many years at the community colleges around here, plus the university as well. And it's just community colleges are wonderful in a lot of ways. But that year for me turned out to be so surprisingly rich. I lived at home. I got my first taste of adulting. I had two jobs, a really fun one at a high-end oil, fruit, and nut shop at the mall. So fun. And a more serious one working for my parents in their interior decorating business. And I even got my first flip phone at age 17. Today, all these little children are running around with phones, and I was so cool at 17. And then I spent a little bit of free time with some friends and my boyfriend at the time. And looking back now, it's really just fun to see how much goodness came from those terrible SATs. Things that never would have happened had I done well on that test. I really like to believe that the universe was simply helping me shift into alignment. I was guided perfectly on my path, and I'm really grateful for each challenge, even the ones that felt really hard. So here are just a few of the gifts that came from that failure. I had an opportunity to spend an extra year babysitting my little brother and spending time with my family. Those are really special memories, and I know I played an integral role in his life and in everybody else's during that bonus year. Also, working for my parents taught me so much about business and entrepreneurship and teamwork and the value of a strong work ethic. I also had the pleasure of exploring art and physics and political science classes. I was taught a radical concept. Are you ready? We shouldn't vote for people just based on their name. I know it's shocking, right? But I literally was taught that. And it's not something that I think most of us really think that we have to think about that. Like it's so obvious. And yet there was clearly a reason that the professor decided to teach that information. Oh, it's so funny. And then, okay, here's the kicker. Perhaps the greatest gift for me of those darn SATs was this. Almost as if by divine intervention, or maybe not almost as if, I decided to apply as a rare 1 year transfer to a university I really wanted to attend. And small miracle, I got in. And then there was a big miracle. On the first day, as I was moving into the dorms, a year late, I met someone special. My family had just driven away. I was teary eyed and a little scared and slightly overwhelmed and full of anticipation and excitement. And as I walked up to my room as a big girl away from home for the first time, I saw a cute guy and I thought, oh, he'll be fun to hang out with for a few weeks. Ha! So that cute guy eventually became my husband. And perhaps we would have met another way. Or perhaps I could have ended up with a different life partner. Or perhaps it was totally random coincidence. But it certainly feels like destiny. And it all started with that failing test. Maybe those test results were actually for me. Maybe I wasn't late. Maybe I was right on time. Over the years, I've experienced many situations like this: serious health challenges, emotional hardships, extremely difficult bosses, academic struggles, relationship heartbreaks, parenting stresses. Ooh, that's a big one. The fear, loss, and trauma that comes with experiencing war firsthand. And I've witnessed these hardships in the lives of others as well. And again, growth and goodness emerged from the distress. These struggles have made me and in many people in my communities stronger, wiser, more compassionate, more aware, more loving. These tribulations have led me to believe that even when we can't yet see the outcome, we can have the certainty that the divine or the universe is on our side, and that things often work out in beautiful ways we couldn't have predicted, that the hardships we live through are simply nudges guiding us towards something better. I like the saying, hindsight is 2020. When we look back, we can see how events unfolded exactly as they needed to, how life was quietly working in our favor all along, especially when we look at the big picture. So, can you think of a time when something difficult in your life ultimately turned out well? Maybe when you went through a rough patch, but the end result was better than you could have anticipated? A health challenge that felt really scary and incredibly taxing at the time, and yet led you to learn something valuable and ultimately made you take better care of yourself? Or maybe one relationship ended very poorly so that the best one for you could appear. Or maybe something smaller, like running late, only to later realize that was an accident right where you were supposed to be if you had arrived on time. If a story comes to mind, I'd love to hear it because those are so fun. Perhaps what feels like a detour is actually life guiding us somewhere better. Maybe life says, not that way, when something greater is waiting for you. And I love the saying, from this only good shall come. My friend Ellen says it often, and I find it incredibly comforting. It reminds me to loosen my grip on control. I like control, but it's much better to not have so much of it, and to soften the worry, and to just trust that something meaningful may be unfolding. So, even for the most skeptical among us, simply trying on that perspective that the universe might be working for us can be surprisingly liberating. It can help us relax a little bit more and take life less seriously and spend more time looking for the good, those silver linings, the joy, and the beauty that could be woven into and found in every moment. And when we put attention on finding good things, more appear. This is because where our attention goes, energy flows and manifestation grows. What we focus on expands. This means that your potential for a delicious, joy filled life is limitless. And isn't that beautiful? Even the smallest shifts in how we think and care for our nervous system can open the door to surprising clarity and ease. Doesn't that feel good to think about? Well, if you're feeling stuck or overwhelmed, or like life is propelling you towards something new, I'd love to support you. And please remember that you are worthy. Sending you much love and light and peace.